Sometimes you need to know that even though things look really bad right now or are really scary right now, that it doesn't mean you should give up. That, it might still be okay.
In 2018 alone, there were 18.1 million new cases of cancer and 9.5 million cancer-related deaths worldwide. By 2040, the number of new cancer cases per year is expected to rise to 29.5 million, and the number of cancer-related deaths to 16.4 million, according to cancer.gov. To put it in even greater perspective, according to TrueGenX.com, 1 in 2 women and 1 in 3 men are likely to get cancer in their lifetime. These are frightening odds. I sat down recently with 2 brave women who are from wildly different backgrounds to discuss and dissect their cancer journey with me. From what it was like at diagnosis, during surgery, pandemic, and before, and what it has been like on this road to recovery. Finding hope, faith, love, and advocacy along the way proved to be extremely valuable to these women and helped shape who they are today.
I turned 50 last April, and you're supposed to have a colonoscopy when you turn 50. Yay, getting older. And I already had just a regular checkup scheduled with my doctor for like a month after that. And so I went and saw her, and she's like, "Oh, hey, you're 50 now. Guess what it's time for?" Yeah. And so she said, like a lot of people are freaked out about going and having procedures done and being in facilities. So there's this other option you can do it's an at-home screening test. And you can do that for this year, and assuming it comes back fine, then in like 3 years we'll get you on track with your regular colonoscopy. I said, okay, that sounds fine. So I did that, and it came back positive. And that's not a huge deal in and of itself, because it does have like a 12% false positive, false negative rate. What it does mean is you do have to go and have a colonoscopy. So I did that. That was in June 22nd. And the doctor said, well, there was a thing and it didn't look good. And I think he knew right away what it was, but he couldn't say that to me. And so, he said, well, we'll see what the pathology says, but regardless, it needs to come out. So find a surgeon. And then 3 days later, he called me and said it was cancer. But now keep in mind, so I only found out about this because I turned 50 and it was time for me to do something about it. For all practical purposes, I wasn't really even having any symptoms. I didn't have family history of cancer, of colon cancer, but my dad had polyps and diverticulitis. And what I found out when I had my colonoscopy was that made me high risk. And so I should have started getting screened when I was 45 instead of when I was 50. But nobody ever told me that, so I didn't know. So I got the phone call June 25th, and on July 21st, I had surgery. So it was a month, a little bit less than a month.
While I found there were many similarities between these 2 women, Susan Trott had a slew of diagnoses and hospital visits throughout her lifetime. And while Celia had her diagnosis when she was 50, Trott first discovered the cancer at a much younger age.
I've always looked healthy. The summer after 10th grade, I kept getting spiking fevers, 104, and then they'd go down and I'd feel fine, and then I'd spike it again, and it'd go down. And so my parents had me, tested over and over again. They thought, oh, it's mononucleosis. But all of those tests kept coming back negative. From there, we moved to a different city, town. The day 11th grade was going to start, I couldn't get out of bed. And I mean, my fever was at 104 and I couldn't move. So my parents took me to the hospital, and I was admitted and I was put in quarantine for 2 weeks. And they kept running mono spots. They did testing me for leukemia, did liver biopsy, bone marrow biopsy, spinal taps, and eventually it came back as mono. So for 2 years, my last 2 years of high school, I only went to high school half a day, but felt fine, except tired. I would literally come home, eat lunch, and take a nap, but lived life pretty normally. Went to college, and in classroom, just feeling on my neck, I felt a lump that hadn't been there before. And so I just kept a watch on it, and it wasn't going away. So I told my parents about it. So I went home during my birthday and had a biopsy, and it came back caseating granuloma, which I had no idea what that was. But they said it's just a cell malformation, and we just need to keep a watch on it. So I just kept getting more and more lumps in my neck. And so by the end of that school year, my sophomore school year in college, came home and had another biopsy, and it came back Hodgkin's disease, which is cancer of the lymphatic system. So from there, I was flown to San Antonio, Texas. My dad was Air Force, and they had a huge teaching hospital there. And so they did further testing. They removed my spleen because your spleen is like a large lymph node, and Hodgkin's disease is cancer of the lymphatic system. It's 1980, and 5 years prior, I probably would have died with Hodgkin's disease, but they had come, with treatment with the radiation. They'd come a long way, and so I wasn't fearful. I was a 19-year-old in San Antonio for 3 months, and then every spring break, every Christmas break, every beginning of summer, every end of summer, I'd go for a reevaluation. So after 3 years, no recurrence, all was good. After college, got married, had children shortly after. With both of my pregnancies, I had blood clots, block colon. My first pregnancy, I hemorrhaged afterwards. So with both pregnancies, I was in the hospital for a month. Both children were premature, but got better from that. And then in 1999, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my left breast. And I had a mastectomy and then chemo treatment. And that went well. And 5 years later, I was diagnosed in my right breast and had a mastectomy. From there, I've had to be on blood thinners and wear compression hose on my legs. And and then from there, I've had 42 basal cell carcinomas removed, 2 melanomas removed, but here I am.
Not only did Celia get diagnosed during a pandemic, she had her surgery during a surge in cases, and tight restrictions in the hospital kept her from having an anything but normal experience.
I had my surgery in the middle of a pandemic, which was awful because nobody could be with me. I don't know how tight restrictions are still now, but last summer everything was just locked down tight. So my husband could come with me to the hospital, and they let him see me. Well, I was going to say before they took me back, but really it wasn't even, it was before they took me to be prepped. So it was a good 2 hours before it wasn't like he saw me right before I went to surgery. So they let him bring me and basically drop me off. And then they told me that he was going to be allowed to see me after surgery. But in reality, what that wound up being, which I don't even remember because of the drugs, but what it wound up being was they told him I was done, and he was in the room that I was going to be in when they brought me out of recovery, and so they wheeled me from recovery to the room, and he was still in there. So he physically laid eyes on me, and they made him leave right then. So we couldn't talk, he couldn't be with me, and they wouldn't let him back in the hospital after that. So I was in the hospital for 4 days by myself after that, with no visitors allowed. Went home and started chemo a month later, and so then went through chemo. Thankfully, West, even through the pandemic, they allowed you to bring one person with you. So I at least didn't have to do that by myself. And that went on from August 31st to February 11th. Basically, I kind of had to go through everything by myself and just wait until I was back in my house to have friends and family. So the hospital was obviously the most strict part about it. I had my colon surgery July 21st, and then I had my port put in July 31st. And then in September, I had to go to the ER one day because I was having chest pains. Mm-hmm. And I called my doctor to find out what I needed to do. And she said, there's a chance you could have blood clots, so you need to go to the ER and get checked out. So I did, and I did. I had blood clots in both my lungs.
After initial surgery, people often forget that these women continue on a life journey.
I actually just saw my oncologist last week and had a CAT scan. And so as of right now, there's no sign of anything. Yay. My blood work was good. My scans were clean.
Trot was rest assured during her journey her faith would get her through.
My faith in God, knowing that whatever occurred, He had me in His hands. And when I was younger, and my faith wasn't as strong, I think I thought I was invincible. Anyway, I was young and stupid. But as years had gone on, and with my health and other families' health and deaths in the family, which is a part of life, I just saw His hand working in that. And so my faith and my friends and my family were all very supportive. And through all of it, I'm not a hypochondriac, but if something ain't right, I'm going to the doctor because I'm still here, and medicine, keeps improving, and diagnostics keep improving. So,
through this journey, Celia has turned to advocacy, social media, and constant conversations. She is helping people more than they may ever know.
I will tell anybody who will listen to me talk. So I recently had knee surgery because why not? We've been through cancer, so let's just have some elective knee surgery. But so I'm in physical therapy, and so I was explaining all this to her, and so she asked me about the cancer, and I was like, great question, let me tell you. And so I was explaining to her the importance of getting screened, because I didn't know that I was high risk just because my dad had polyps. I just knew we didn't have colon cancer in the family, so I didn't think polyps specifically made me high risk. Because people hear colon cancer and they think it's for old people, that only old people get colon cancer, and that's wildly untrue. Not only, I know I'm not young anymore, but I'm not old. I'm 50. Well, now I'm 51. But you would be surprised how many people in like the 25 to 40 age range are getting diagnosed with colon cancer, and not like early stage 1 colon cancer. These people have stage 3 and stage 4 colon cancer, and stage 4 means that it has spread to other parts of your body. So it's either in your lymphatic system or it's in other organs like your liver and your lungs. And so it's a really big deal, and it's really scary and hard to fight. And people 30 in their early and mid 30s are getting colon cancer now. So screening is incredibly important, especially if you have a family history. So the way my gastroenterologist explained it to me is, if you have a primary family member, which is a parent, child, or sibling, who has a history of polyps, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, or colon cancer, then that makes you high risk. And you should start getting screened at 10 years before their age at diagnosis. So as an example, if my dad was 45 the first time he had a polyp, then I should have started getting screened when I was 35. So many people hear the word colonoscopy and freak out and think, oh my God, that's gross and it's gonna hurt and the prep is nasty and it takes a long time and I just don't wanna do it. And I'm here to tell you, it's really not that big of a deal. So yes, there's prep involved. That's not fun. It's not the way we want to spend 24 hours, but it's not bad. You either take some pills or you drink some stuff. It depends on what they prescribe for you. And you stay near a bathroom the day before your procedure. And then you don't eat anything after midnight. And then you go and they give you some nice happy drugs and you go to sleep and you don't know what is happening to you, and you wake up and it's all over and you don't feel anything. Like you're not sore, you don't hurt physically when it's over. Like I said, not the way you would choose to spend a day, but it's not awful. It doesn't hurt. And if it will catch cancer or something precancerous that's going to turn into cancer, it is so worth it, because it is so much easier to treat if you can catch it early or catch it as a polyp before it starts, where they can just snip it and take it out, than having to go through everything I went through. So yes, I will preach it all day long.
I was so honored to interview these women. Their stories are so incredibly inspiring. Through my talks with them, I really started to realize that we can get too lost in our own world sometimes. We go about our day not thinking about those struggling. It's not until our own dark night that we appreciate and ache for the ones hurting. There are unimaginable things that happen in this world, and there are unspeakable things that have happened to both of these women. But yet, through it all, they are helping people. They are loving their life and are taking it day by day with deep gratitude.
I'm just grateful to be here. After my Hodgkin's when I was younger, and then getting married and having children and having so many issues with those pregnancies, I really didn't think I'd make it to 30, and I'm twice that now. So I'm just thankful for that.
Unfortunately, it's kind of a situation where, okay, today it looks like it's gone, but tomorrow it might not. So today we just get to be thankful that for today it looks like it's gone, and hope that it stays that way.
18.1 million cases, 1 in 2 women, 1 in 3 men. There are people all around you on a cancer journey.